in debt, and yet we have money to give to a political advocacy group that hates ICE? We're not talking about polite town halls here. We're talking about shutting down streets, vehicles impaired, rocks hurled at police. It's pure anarchy. Joining us now, California State Senate candidate and Vice Chair of Rebuild California, Mike Netter. So, Mike, $100 million to Chirla. We get this report from independent journalist Cam Higby. Tell us who Chirla is and what their vision is for California.
Well, I think Chirla's vision for California, which is the coalition supposedly for human immigration, and I'll leave the whole expletive deleted out in general, right? Because no one quite knows what they stand for. But let me tell you what I think they stand for, and that's graft and grifting. $100 million goes into an organization unsupervised. And to tell you how unsupervised it is, and there's a great picture of them protesting, I actually caught wind of them about last August when there was a big protest.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. It looks like everybody but Mike. Mike's muted and black. Come on, Mike. What's going on with that? Welcome to California Free Radio. Oh, Mike is there.
We were trying something new tonight, as you could tell, and we're continuing as we progress with welcome to California Free Radio. How's that for an opening blast? Scott, take us in, and I'm going to get some stuff done. We were trying to get done behind the scenes. As you know, the show is homegrown, kind of like how I was raised, and we're doing it. We want to push this out everywhere. We are blasting live on @NetterMike. We are blasting live on our Facebook groups. We are blasting live on LinkedIn on Outraged, our YouTube channel. Scott, Kirk, take us in for 1 second here, and I'll do an opening rant.
For all of you who don't know, Mike Netter is running for state senate. So when he gets back online, he can tell us about that. Scott, you have any updates on the CEO initiative or Prop 13 or voter fraud or any of the good stuff going on?
No, you know what? There's a couple things I wanted to hit on, but the first thing I wanted to hit on was State of the Union and just the difference. First of all, it was the longest State of the Union ever. And I don't know about you, but I didn't get bored. I'm not tired of winning. I'm not tired of hearing all the great things that we did in the last year. I'm good with all of that. But I thought there were some pretty sharp distinctions between Republicans and Democrats. The way the Republicans, first of all, a third of the Democrats didn't even bother to show up, even though it's their, I'll say their constitutional duty. They're supposed to receive this constitutionally mandated report from the president that he delivers every year, and these guys were AOL or AWOL. So some of the things that were different. First of all, the media, we all know that the media is biased. They're really Democrats. But when, Trump sat there and introduced Team USA, come on, Miracle on Ice, we sit there and win. We hadn't done that since 1980. We win the gold medal in a dramatic fashion. And Trump goes out there and he introduces them, and the Republicans all stand up and give him a standing ovation. Even some of the Democrats stood up, to their credit, and gave him a standing ovation. Not all of them, just some of them.
Not all
of them. And the media, they didn't do anything. They just sat there closed-lipped like, we're not going to say anything. Oh, we're neutral. Well, crap. How can you not stand for America's team and coming from behind and winning a gold medal like that? What a bunch of jerks the media were. But hey, the Democrats tried to top them. They didn't applaud when the president blasted forced and coerced gender transitions. I mean, that's
castrations of children.
That's like Mengele. You're experimenting on children, removing body parts, forever changing them, and how can anybody be against forced and coerced, operations like this? And yet the Democrats didn't stand up. They didn't applaud. They didn't applaud when the president urged people to stand and applaud for defending citizens before illegal aliens. And in fact, their response, the Democratic response, included a defense of illegal aliens. We know, the Democrats were out and they showed their colors in full stripes. They weren't our stripes, of course. They belong more like black and white stripes, like they should be in prison. But, they sat there and showed that they are for illegal aliens over us as citizens. They are against the USA. I mean, for crying out loud, when they introduced Yarna Zaruski's parents, that was the lady that got stabbed out of the middle of nowhere on the subway in New York.
No, it was Charlotte, North Carolina, I believe.
I'm sorry, it was Charlotte, North Carolina. You're right. But I think it was actually on a bus. But the guy that stabbed her just out of the blue starts stabbing her. I mean, there wasn't like any warning. He wasn't antagonistic. He just decided, I'm going to stab this white lady.
Well, and Scott, he was a repeat criminal that was let off by a liberal judge when he should have been thrown in jail. And he made anti-white racial remarks as he was killing her.
Yeah, you mean a liberal judge, you mean a Democrat judge. Oh, but you repeat yourself. And then the crowd chanted, USA, USA. And of course, progressive Democrat Rashida, I mean, really, that's not right. Progressive is not the word we use. Commie, Marxist Democrat Rashida Tlaib seemed to chant KKK instead of Go USA.
Well, she is a Democrat, and the Democrats are the party of the KKK.
They are. The KKK was invented by the Democrats to be their enforcement arm to keep blacks from voting after the Civil War. They are the party of the KKK. They are the party of Jim Crow. So when they sit there and say something's Jim Crow, they ought to know they invented it, but they're misusing it, of course, when they use it against Republicans. So overall, the president gave a really great, upbeat speech, right? Pro-America, all the things that they had accomplished last year, his administration had accomplished, with telling us about all the other things that are going to be accomplished. Inflation has gone from 9% down to less than 3%. Interest rates have come down. I mean, the economy is going well. Real wages are up. Yes, there are some things that are more expensive, but I'll tell you what isn't, and that's gasoline. At least if you don't live in California, it's like half of what it was when Biden left office. So overall, you couldn't have seen a better display of the difference between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans love America and Democrats hate America.
But Scott, you said something that was really important about the illegal aliens. Trump said, everyone stand who thinks government should protect U.S. citizens ahead of illegal aliens, and the Democrats would not stand. Maybe John Fetterman, but no one else. So that tells us the Democrats are the party that hates America, hates American citizens, hates normal Americans, as Newt Gingrich once said, and wants to replace us with illegal aliens who they can cheat and get to vote for them when they're not citizens.
The irony of it is that many of the illegal aliens that came in during the Biden era were Islamists, and they have this unique partnership. The Marxists and the Islamists are together. The Democrats and the illegal aliens that came in from Muslim countries that are Islamist. They've got this unique partnership just so that the Democrats can maintain power, not realizing that they're setting the Islamists up to take over, because eventually they don't want the Democrats. They're just using the Democrats to have mutual power. And eventually they're going to throw the Democrats under the bus too. But in the meantime, Democrats want power so much, they're willing to throw American citizens under the bus.
Well, but Scott, the Islamists are very aggressive, as we've seen in Europe. But Americans have guns. If they think they're ever taking over, whether they pass laws or not, there will be a very bloody civil war here like is coming in Europe.
Well, I don't know that it'll be a civil war, because I think the Democrats will join with the Republicans against the Islamists.
Some of them, but I'm not, not the politicians.
But anyway, Mike, are you all together now? Are you ready to give us your
I think I'm
opening
together
rant?
now, and seeing some of the comments that are in here. Look, gas is so expensive in California because of the Democrats, but I want to take you back a year to last year's speech. And the reality is I put out in one of my posts, I was very happy that a dozen or so of the top rabble-rousing Democrats didn't show up. Shows what idiots they are, because they actually had less people to make trouble. But let's go back, gentlemen, 1 year ago to a name many of you have forgotten, and I'm looking at it here, called DJ Daniel. Do you remember who DJ Daniel is?
Yes, he was a child who was given an honorary position with the Secret Service last year.
At the State of the Union last year.
For everyone out there, DJ Daniel is a 13-year-old boy who has brain cancer, which is probably terminal. And his death was greatly exaggerated this week. But there was a meme going around. I corrected out. He's alive. He has more tumors in his brain. But let me ask everyone out there a question. Regardless if you're Democrat, Republican, Muslim, Christian, what kind of human garbage does not stand up for a 13-year-old boy at probably what is the greatest moment of his life, at a life which is going to have a lot less moments than the rest of us? And simply because the President of the United States, whether he's from your party or not, introduces a 13-year-old boy with terminal cancer, half the group, the same morons, and I'm going to say it, pieces of human garbage that didn't stand up this year, don't stand up for this boy. And I want you to take a deep breath and go back in time a little bit to that. Because if you think it's one thing that, yes, they don't stand up and say, Trump set them up, we're here to protect America. If you don't think it's one thing that they don't stand up for the American hockey team, yeah, that's extreme and that's bad. And that seems to be beyond even the Democrats. But you in the Democratic Party, you've got to really think about who you are electing as leaders. Who are you electing as leaders who will not stand up for a 13-year-old? What happened?
You sound like you're in an echo chamber.
It's like you put the God echo on your microphone.
Well, I was getting complaints on the sound, so I changed mics here. Hold on.
Change back.
That better?
No.
No.
All right. Sorry, I was on One American News. And
Yeah, technical issues. I love it.
Is that better?
Not sure, but it doesn't sound better.
How's that?
No, you're echoing. As Mary says, too much in and out of sound.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's why he adjusted it in the first place.
Right, exactly.
Excuse me.
All right. Well, it should be where I don't know what again is going on unusual this week.
A little better.
All right.
So, Mike, tell us about the state Senate race.
State Senate race, my friends. People ask why I'm running a lot of the time. And I'm running not only for our normal issues. Let's be really clear on something. For those of you out there saying California is a blue state, 48% of the registered voters are Democrats. Less than half. They have 75% of the seats in both houses. And I want you to really think about that. And most of you even who are Democrats, and it's not that I want to be careful about saying Democrats, it's your Democratic leadership because you're not paying attention. We are 3 seats away, 8 seats away from breaking the supermajority. Your voice isn't getting heard. I did another video this week where literally no one I know is for a tax for every mile that you drive. No one. It's a study right now, which means it will turn out into a tax.
No,
Prop
yeah, it's clear.
50,
It's clear that the Dems, the Dem leadership, loves the idea of a new tax.
they love all ideas of new taxes.
I mean, they're not going
And
to cut our
just
gas
this
tax and change it to a value or to a mileage tax. They're going to do
just this
both.
week, a proposal came up to suspend the gas tax for a year. Just this week. Democrats with a supermajority to understand how the sausage is made can keep these bills, which are written, from even going to the floor for debate. Now, here's a shocker for you guys. Newsom lies. He lied, for example, when a veterans bill, which came up without going into detail, and Ashley Zavada stuck a mic in his face and said, look, even many of the veterans are against this bill. And Gavin said, well, it was for debate on the floor, and the legislature decided to pass it, and I decided to sign it. It's not up for debate. Many of the bills that are proposed, taxes, schools, suspending the gas tax, all the things that you find are disrupting the general fabric of your everyday life, never get up for debate. Bianca, a lot of the friends that I see here on the feed, the problem is we don't have debate in the state legislature anymore. We don't even have things come out of committee that one side proposes. And by the way, that one side isn't actually even just the Republicans. What? No. What it is the highly extreme Democrats have gotten control of the committees and the supermajority and don't allow things to get out of committee to even get to the floor to get a vote. Prop 50, which didn't make it to the Supreme Court, which I see somebody commenting on, which is on the congressional seats, not our state assembly and state senate seats. Most members of the legislature, including some Democrats, said exactly what's going on here, who's drawing the maps. And the members of the legislature did not know on either side of the aisle because Gaddam had them drawn by Paul Mitchell in private. In case you're not aware, and again, I've got to dive off a little early tonight, so I'm going to get as many rants in as possible. Gentlemen, you know we're building $1 billion building, right?
No,
Yes.
Mike, tell us
They're,
about it.
they're replacing the legislative offices that are attached to the existing or this historic California Capitol building.
Well, we think they are. Here's the problem. They're actually demolishing most of the old Capitol building, we think. And a project which started, and the bullet train is talked about a lot, and a lot of things are talked about a lot. But as I reported in Netter News months ago, and they're finally changing that, everybody who was involved in this project, which originally budgeted for, we think, 300 to 500 million, signed NDAs, a small group of Democrats. And there is now a building going up behind a fence that we think is overdue. We don't know exactly when it was supposed to be finished, that we're pretty sure is over budget, except you know the problem, gentlemen? We didn't
Just
know what
one?
the budget was to begin with because they never really gave us one. It was done by a building committee, which again, they have to have one member of the other party serve on, but has no voice. We think now that building is at the $1.2 billion range. That is 1.2 with a B, all of your tax money. Overdue, over budget. No one's even sure what is going into it. And you're hearing me absolutely correct. They, when questioned even finally by Ashley Zavada, they were like, well, we don't want to say because, you know, there's security reasons. How about lack of transparency? How about Herb Morgan running? We have not had an audit of our own state finances in probably 4 years by the auditor's office. The governor of California, or I should say the alleged, can get up there and lie about the state budget. He lied to the public. He was in a room with a bunch of hand clapping unlike what you saw at the State of the Union. And the auditor's office, the nonpartisan legislative analyst's office, said, no, we think we're 18 to 20 billion behind. So Gavin just gets up there and lied, and much of the press is complicit with it. We don't know. We know all the top line ones. The 24 billion for homelessness that's unsupervised, the EDD fraud, you know, the ones that are reported, but there's a lot to keep up with. And people ask, you want to know why I'm running? Because it's not making California, any of this, a better place to live. Nobody wants to pay higher taxes. That's all California has to offer. You guys want to hear a kicker?
Sure.
Did some analysis. You could cut the taxes by 23% for everybody making under $150,000. Cut their state income tax by 23%. The total cost to the state would only be $4 to $6 billion a year. Oh my God, not a lot, guys. Okay, we gave $8 billion in just free healthcare, legal immigration. We have a $318 billion budget. We cut that, and that actually would put for the average person around $1,000 to $2,000 back in their pocket. And hold on, I'm going to go into an economic rant.
So we're talking about pipe dreams now, right? Because we know that Democrats would never go for a tax cut.
Well, the point is you have to start somewhere. And here's the thing, it can be done.
Which is why you're running. Yeah. Otherwise, you would be moving out of the state.
Correct. It's a lot of this. You got to start with proposing this. Shannon Grove, friend of mine, got stuff through. We can get stuff through if we make it popular enough, and my voice could be heard with louder from the pulpit, if you will, of a state senate district.
I hope you will be up there to bring thunder and lightning to the place.
Hold on. Number of issues. If you just took that one thing, I want you to think about something. Instead of putting the burden on small businesses to keep raising the minimum wage because people need more take-home pay, how about we just give them some money back in their pocket by cutting California taxes? Think about that.
Obviously, should be done. But Mike, that's taxes for the small guy. But it turns out that in California, only 200 people pay 47% of all tax revenue.
100%. So if
they have this billionaire tax and they leave, that's going to pull the rug out of California financially.
So, and Bianca's going to disagree with me because she's for it. I see her there. I think the billionaire tax is a bad idea. Okay? Now.
That's a terrible idea. Well, it's a wealth tax. It's not, it's not an income tax.
And that's an asset tax. I'm talking about actually taking and cutting income tax for people making $150,000 a year and under. And I can't wait to see them. It's a tax revolt. Suspending the gas tax and other things to go with it. I also would like to mention that apparently with the billionaire tax or the billionaire asset tax that they're talking about, which I'm not even sure is legal, but let's put that down.
Well, it's not. It's an unconstitutional taking.
Correct.
Set that aside for a moment.
If you take money, you put more money in the economy with more disposable income and more jobs, the whole pie grows.
And you're just one of those supply siders. Come on, admit it.
I am a supply sider because it works. And by the way, if you think it's working now, who has the second highest unemployment rate in the nation?
Us behind New York, right?
Us behind, I believe it is Nevada. However, Nevada has a lot less people. And so we have the most unemployed people in the country every quarter. You know about the highest poverty rate, you know about everything else, because we're in this spiral of thinking that we're going to raise wages. But when we raise wages and don't lower taxes, the person actually on the front line at Burger King, McDonald's, at hotels isn't actually taking home more, because back to the billionaire tax that you're talking about, or back to the rich people pay more, it's a progressive tax schedule. So we've simply been bumping these people up 1 or 2% into a higher tax bracket. And I get that part. What isn't talked about is when you bump somebody's wage from 20 to 30 bucks, they're not netting $10 an hour. They're netting a lot less because the government is taking in more taxes off of that. And then we get in this endless spiral of thinking, instead of cutting taxes, supply side, yes, indeed, and there's supply side, and there's but not on here. We're actually, California is taking in more money and spending more money ever than ever before. But it's time. And by the way, I welcome any argument. I'm on various neighborhood groups, so to speak, under my real name. Great debate. Let's talk about it.
So
Let's-
you bring that up. Trump successfully included in the Big Beautiful Bill last year, cutting taxes entirely from overtime wages, right? And a lot of states, when they do their own income tax, will sit there and say, how much did you pay for the federal tax? This much percentage, pay us, right? So the same deductions that the feds give, in effect, the state gives. But what did California do?
They didn't let that go through, did they?
No, they are still charging income tax on overtime wages, even though you don't pay federal taxes. You will be paying California taxes on overtime.
And I want to be really clear on that. That's a great point, Scott. That's not a lot of money to the state of California. Okay, before
It
we
is to the
start
guy
naming-
working overtime, though.
No.
I
What I mean, to the guy working overtime, it is.
Yeah.
But when you hear, well, look, I'm a pro-lifer, but whether you're for or against abortion, we've just given Planned Parenthood, unsupervised, somewhere to 40 to 60 to 80 million dollars.
No, it was $90 million.
90. We talked
90,
about that
excuse
last
me,
week.
90 million. I
in
said
the new budget. Yes.
okay, $90 million. We simply can't afford to do that. Shouldn't that money maybe go back to the people? Maybe instead of arguing over healthcare for illegal aliens, we give the money back to the people. If somebody wants to be here, that's up to the federal government to throw them out, which I think they should be, but let them buy their own healthcare. Where the hell are they taking money out of the guy working at Burger King, at a hotel, at a restaurant, and stealing money from them in income tax, and say, oh, we're going to raise minimum wage, and then you're going to jack up the tax and hand it
it's
out to
worse.
someone else?
It's worse than that. You're an immigrant. You went through the process. You waited in line. You finally get in. You're naturalized. You're a citizen. You've been paying taxes this whole time, right? And then now, if you don't have health insurance, they penalize you. Yet, if you're a illegal alien, you get free health care. Not only are you not paying, you're not being penalized, you get it free.
And by the way, on Stephanie's point, the number of businesses that have closed in California is literally close to 100,000. There's way too many to count. Public Storage, okay, headquarters, which, hey, it doesn't sound like much, 300-400 people out of Glendale announced they're moving from California. It's not only the businesses that close, it's the ones moving out, because the tax bracket and the economic environment is too difficult for them to do. Also, I'm going to continue my rant for my early time runs out tonight. I want you to really think of something. We vote in things like Prop 36, regardless of the people who wouldn't stand up for DJ Daniel. And 73% of the people said, we want Prop 36 to pass because we don't like crime. It has not been funded. Gentlemen, do you know how much it costs to fund Prop 36?
Well, how much does it cost? I know
Yeah,
how much they.
No,
All they have to do is keep. All they have to do is keep the prisoners in jail that belong in jail.
That's not even what Prop 36 is about. It takes 170 million out of a budget of $318 billion this year. That is like me asking to borrow Scott $2 for a hamburger and I'll pay him back Tuesday. And Newsom refuses to fund it. But it's not as much Gavin, as hard as you say, it's the legislature not demanding that Gavin do it. And I want you to remember something here too, gentlemen. Gavin proposes a budget. It's up to the legislature to approve the budget and make suggestions to the budget. And things like funding of crime, things like making the fire departments, etc., better, okay, need to be done. Okay. And as far as Beyonce, you're going here, what you're missing the point is people, and I'm sorry to say this to you, you're a buddy of mine, but the reality is this: they are paying taxes. They're paying a good chunk of taxes, and people with minimum wage are paying taxes. I've researched this very heavily, and it's not a lot of tax when you look at the billions of dollars, but it's about an increase of $200 to $300 a month to put in somebody's pocket if we just cut it below making $150,000 a year. And I open that debate for everybody because it's not a tremendous amount of money as far as the state budget goes, but it's something which needs to be done. Right now, Los Angeles is talking about adding 1% to the sales tax. It doesn't sound like much when they phrase it like 1%, but that's a 10% surcharge on everything you buy after the state of California has taxed you approximately 17.8% on everything that you make. And total up, not to count the cell phone tax, not to count this tax and that tax. When you total up the taxes we pay just to California and all of them together, it is in the 20 to 30% range for every person, not counting the billionaires, for the average person. I did a show on this a while back. It's a huge amount of money that we keep feeding into the government, watching the budget go. And again, our roads aren't repaired, our homelessness isn't fixed. There isn't much done. And we have a lot of smart people who debate this, but unfortunately, they're not in the legislature because the people in the legislature have no say in the matter that want to debate it because the non-supply side, Scott's socioeconomics, don't want to do it. I think most of us would like to be safe. I think most of us would like a better economy. And most of us would like to pay lower gas prices. And we could debate about all these things, but we can't debate. And I would really challenge anybody who'd like to tell me how a 40%, 42, 43% registered share has a 75% control. It makes no sense, but it happens because of the party of apathy. And it happens a lot because, unfortunately, the Democratic Party in the state actually practices voter suppression, like they've done with Prop 50, like they could do. And why wouldn't they? I have to hand it to them because they're in power and they've kept it. You need to break the cycle.
It's interesting you talk about that. It's like there's more debate within the Republican Party than there is between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats don't debate. They don't even debate within their own party.
Correct.
Did you hear that talk about tone deaf? ACA 7 was voted on in the Assembly today. ACA 7 is going to reverse Prop 209. Prop 209 eliminated
racial discrimination.
Right.
Racial and sex discrimination at public employment, public education, public contracting. And the voters enacted that. And then they reenacted it or confirmed it in 2020 when they voted against Prop 16, which would have repealed it outright. Excuse me. Now they're coming in saying public education would be exempted from this prohibition. The ban on race-based preferences would apply only to public employment, public contracting, and higher education admission and enrollment. And K-12 education policies, grant programs, et cetera, would be able to resume discrimination on race and sex. So
Well, if
public
that violates
education,
federal
K-12.
law, the DOJ will sue them immediately if they pass
And
that.
but Kurt, you hit upon a big problem right there before I have to jump off to this other thing. This is what the legislature is doing, which, by the way, also costs you millions and millions each year. Whether it's gun rights, whether it's the schools, whether it's any kind of anything you talk about, the legislature passes continuously law. I mean, we're going to mask the ICE agent. Sounds really good. Doesn't fly in federal court, guys. And I got a two-sided sword to that. Either they pass them knowing they aren't, spending a tremendous amount of money defending things which have no constitutional value, or they're really that stupid. So either crooks or dumb, or they might be dumb crooks, but they have to keep passing laws that they think appeal to the press and a certain segment of people because it costs money, everybody out there. And you know why they do that? Because the law firms that defend them are not the Department of Justice in California. They're the firm's friends. They're the DOJ's friends. That's the 20. I mean, the list goes on, and it's out and out corruption and it's fraud. It's the fraud of 25 and 30 million that you see going everywhere. And it's not that, Bianca, we need to up the minimum wage. We need to up take home pay. And that is really what it comes down to. The take home pay percentage for 50,000, which is about the poverty line in California, by the way, okay, is less than any state in the union. And our politicians lie about it and keep telling us, just up what people take home. They don't spend gross pay. What they spend is what they take home. And it's time we up the take home pay and make the politicians in Sacramento have a smaller budget so they can pass out. I want to, before I jump off, get to what I opened the show with and we end this week. And let me be really clear on that. The protesters in California were funded by the government. And this one's personal to me because Chula, the humane, whatever they call themselves, okay, gave a $500,000 donation to fight the recall that we the people put on the ballot. And that $500,000 looks like it came from the same government that Gavin Newsom himself was being recalled from, which is kind of illegal, or we used to call it money laundering. Now, unfortunately, that's come out 5 years after the statute of limitation. So if you think you're being listened to, whether you sign a recall, sign Prop 36, sign almost anything, again, Howard Jarvis, and I want to not forget about that. Great news. We've got that on the ballot to keep from diluting Prop 13. And last year or last cycle, the government sued the initiative that we signed to keep going on there. Now, school choice, or the CEO Act, is about 52% of the way there. We have about another month or so to go, and we might make it. But the teachers union, who the head of the teachers union is making $600,000-$800,000 in the executive round, are funding an one that they're saying it's going to help school lunches. Not a penny of that will go to school lunches, and I challenged a paid petitioner on that on the street corner of a Sprouts near me, and she admitted she hadn't read it, and she looked at it, and she walked off, and she had 2 young kids, one of them in a stroller. You're lied to by your government. You're lied to by your public unions, and it's time we had a voice. Quit voting Democrat, vote for change. And that's what I'm going to tell you, because if you look around, every argument that I hear people making doesn't hold economic water when I break it down. And by the way, it's not helping the poor people. It's not helping the kids at school. It's virtually only people it's helping are the rich politicians and the rich heads of unions. And you ask why I'm running for Senate? I'm running for Senate I'm going to say this, and if you have kids, hide their ears, to be a loudmouth asshole to make sure that our voice gets heard. Because our voice right now is not getting heard. And
Yeah, this ACA 7 that they voted on in the assembly, not a single Democrat voted against it. Not one. There were a couple of them that
hold on.
dodged a vote
Hold on.
and didn't vote.
Interesting point you bring up there. Because when they first went to the floor, actually 8 Democrats did vote against it, but they worked the floor until they got the 8 votes, threatening them with non-support for their jobs, basically.
Exactly. So the Democrats play the game. They control the union purse strings. The unions sit there and say, "Where do you want the money to go?" And then they deliver the money to the candidates. And so they go to the guys and say, "Look, you can't vote against this, or we'll defund you. We'll primary you." And they all folded. Not a single Dem voted against it. There were 6 that didn't vote on it. They were excused from voting. That was their escape, so that if they were in a borderline district, they could face the voters and say, "I didn't vote for it," but they didn't vote no.
And it's time we stop this. You don't have debate. It's not a democracy. And again,
It's a one-party state, and it's all led by Marxists.
Right. It is time that we beat the biggest party of all, which is the party of apathy. I'm going to make it through the primary. Hold on. And if not even everybody votes, but we have a high turnout. Look at the races in your area. Go to Ballotpedia and look at the turnout for the office of state legislature, as a state senate or state assembly. Look at the local turnout. It's really bad. Where is Kurt? Because I've got to dive off, and I don't want to leave you unsupervised.
He vanished.
Kurt, gentlemen, I'm going to let you carry the rest of the show. And for everyone out there, Kurt has a lot of good stories lined up this week, but I want to make the point before I go again. They're not Democrats necessarily, but the leadership that you've elected, the Rashid, the Bobs, the AOCs, these people and these ridiculous people in the legislature and the Senate, this is the same group that would not stand up for a 13-year-old boy of color, I might add, who has terminal brain cancer at the greatest moment of his life. It's time to give them some bad moments. And so stand up, quit voting for party, and start voting for decency. Because it's time we have common decency back again, made our streets safe, and stop this hooded crap that we see all over the place, and more people get educated. Quit arguing about the stuff which doesn't affect your everyday life, and get out there and vote for change, because it's your damn state. And I, Mike Netter, running for state senate, District 22, plan on keeping that way. I'm going to do a beg. Go to the top of my X feed, throw 10, 20 bucks if you can, because this just in, every dollar that you invest will probably be made up by less taxes that I plan on putting through, and by saving you from those hospital bills when you might get shot. Gentlemen, have a good rest of the show.
All right, Mike.
Hi, Mike. You have a good one.
Mike Netter for State Senate. All right, Scott, we have a lot to talk about. You talked about the State of the Union at the beginning of the show, and it was outrageous that Democrats would not prioritize U.S. citizens over illegal aliens. But we have a lot more outrages today.
Hey, hold on. While we're going back to that subject, Babylon Bee, for those of you that don't know, it's a satire site, and from a conservative side. And so they put together a list of all of the top 8 polarizing statements that Trump made during the State of the Union address. Number 1, good evening. Trump wasted no time tearing the country apart with this contentious opening. Congratulations to the gold medal winning U.S. hockey team, a team that literally fought our own ally, Canada. Conflict is the goal. American government is responsible for serving Americans. Trump could have brought unity. Instead, he brought this. We should not hurt children, fomenting discord with radical statements like always. Violent crime is bad. another grenade of disunity lobbed at America. I think these guys are very good at their writing. Thank you for our wounded veterans for their service. It's like Trump wants nothing but to stir controversy. Number 7, female refugees being killed on trains is wrong. Why must Trump insist on driving us apart? And number 8, God bless America. Trump is literally asking us to fight each other. Anyway, I thought that was good. I mean, it goes to show that TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, it didn't matter what Trump said. They were going to hate it and hate Trump for it anyway, because they can't see straight when it comes to Trump.
Well, the problem is that Democrats don't have anything to offer America or California that we actually want, so they have to lie. So, Scott, the SAVE Act would require voter ID, paper ballots, other than and limit mail-in ballots to the military and truly infirm people. And Gavin Newsom and other Democrats have slammed the SAVE Act for making voters prove their citizenship, saying sexist, racist, all the usual ists that Democrats have. But Scott, it's interesting that to get on an airplane, you need your ID. To open a bank account, thanks to the Democrats' overregulation, you got to show your ID. And to shovel snow in communist Mondani's New York, you had to show 2 forms of ID to get a snow shoveling job. So Democrats are fine. The Corporate Transparency Act that Democrats passed when Biden was president, that was oppressive and was declared unconstitutional by at least one judge, they wanted you to show 2 forms of ID for every company you own. But Democrats want ID for everything except voting. Why is that, Scott?
Well, it makes it too hard for them to cheat. In an ideal world, a sane person could sit there and agree that we want our voting system to be as easy to vote as possible and as hard to cheat as possible, right?
Well, they want it as easy to cheat as possible.
And they want it to be as easy to vote as possible and as easy to cheat as possible. I mean, let's be real. Even when they sit there and they do audits and recounts and all this other crap, all they're doing is they're verifying that, hey, yeah, we counted the votes correctly. But it doesn't get into the fact that there were so many votes cast that were improper votes, either by illegal aliens or just by dead people or whoever.
Or by Democrat campaign apparatchiks that are voting for people who shouldn't be voting. Like
the SAVE Act does a couple of things, and the U.S. Senate needs to get off their butts and pass it, and they need to get rid of the filibuster if that's what it takes.
Well, John Thune, the majority leader, said that they will make them filibuster and there will be a vote on the SAVE Act. Now,
this whole filibuster issue is another issue, but the whole concept of having a absentee filibuster, screw it. Make them stand up and in the chamber
24/7, make them drop dead if that's what they're going to do.
So get rid of the silent filibuster while still keeping the filibuster. But the SAVE Act will do 2 things. It'll require proof of citizenship and voter ID. And I guess a third thing that is also important is that it'll require no votes will be able to be accepted after election
day.
So, this whole thing like California, basically what happens is they see on election day how many votes they need to cheat and manufacture to win the election, and they go and manufacture them, dump them in the mailbox the next day with the postmark from election day, and then they get 7 days for the mail to get there, and it gets counted. So it's ridiculous that you're allowed to accept a ballot. Now, if you sit there and effectually do that, at least for the federal elections, it's impractical to hold 2 elections. You're not going to hold an election for the feds and an election for the state. If they did, it would be great. Hey, come into the voting booth, show your ID to vote for Congress, and then come over here and vote for state. And no, you don't have to show your voter ID. So if you come in and you want to cheat and you don't want to show your voter ID, you go to the state side only and not to the Fed side. All I have to do is compare who voted in the state election and not in the federal election, and I'm going to go investigate those guys. Why didn't they vote in the federal election? What do they have to hide? Are they citizens? Are they registered to vote?
Well, it's
If
hard to
it would be
submit
great.
50 fake ballots into a ballot box if you have to show an ID.
Yeah, well, yes, and you have to be there in person. So, and Trump is also advocating that absentee ballots. This I do not believe is in the SAFE Act, but he is advocating that the only absentee ballots would be military, active military, and
Well, I think, yeah,
elderly,
the only mail-in ballots are those. Yeah, I think that's what he
elderly,
said.
elderly and infirm, and basically a doctor's note and a witness signature.
So,
So
Scott,
you're gonna limit it.
apparently our Senator Alex Padilla, the former state Secretary of State in California, said there's no voter fraud, but there's overwhelming evidence of voter fraud. Why is a U.S. Senator, Democrat, Alex Padilla lying?
Well, obviously, it's because he's a Democrat. But I like to say, when people ask me, "Is there voter fraud?" It's kind of like, "Well, do you believe that there's tax fraud? Do you believe that people are cheating on their taxes?" And of course, I don't know anybody would say no to that. They would probably say no, they don't do it, but they admit that it's done, right? Same thing with bank fraud, right? Banks are fraud. People try and steal from banks via credit card or whatever. They try and do whatever they can to steal money from banks. So bank fraud's real, tax fraud's real. What moron would sit there and think that voter fraud isn't real? You'd have to be an absolute moron. The question is always, is there enough voter fraud that it affects the outcome of the election? And I would say the answer to that question is yes. But can that be proved? No, because the laws are so lax, it's so easy to cheat, it's hard to prove.
Well, I
The
think
SAFE
they
Act
have
is
proven it
fraud.
in some cases. People have gone to jail in the United States, Scott, in the last few election cycles for voter fraud.
Hey, we got our local Democrat in Orange County here that registered their dog to vote, and the dog voted. And
Are
so
they being prosecuted?
they were prosecuted, but I think they reached a deal where there's no jail time.
That's outrageous. Well, speaking of crime, Scott, illegal aliens are committing a lot of it in the United States, and those illegal aliens were let in by Democrats. But one of these illegal aliens was convicted of attempted murder. And when you're convicted of attempted murder, it's easy to fast track your deportation when you're an illegal alien. But Newsom pardoned this illegal alien convicted of attempted murder to try to keep him in the country. Now, why, Scott, would anyone who does, unless they hate America and hate their people, why would you pardon someone convicted of attempted murder?
I mean, he's guilty of attempted murder.
Yeah,
So the guy
he's
was
convicted.
well,
Convicted.
maybe that's why he let him go, because he attempted it, but he screwed up and wasn't actually successful at murdering somebody. I mean, what an idiot!
Yeah,
is he
Gavin
going to
Newsom's
invite
running
that
for
guy to spend the
president.
night in his mansion up there and on the coast of California?
Gavin Newsom's running for president. He will have to answer for that in the campaign. He will have to. But
Yeah, I
he's
think most
soft on
Americans
crime.
would go along with it.
He's soft on crime in other ways, Scott.
What other
So,
ways?
oh yeah.
Tell me
There
how.
was a release of a convicted serial child abuser, and Newsom is facing calls to resign. Why?
So what
Why?
happened? Explain that again.
Okay. So there's a Sacramento sheriff named Jim Cooper,
Yeah.
and he is criticizing Gavin Newsom because there's an elderly parole program which let this serial child molester on. I guess they think if you're an elderly person, you won't keep committing the crimes that you committed for a lifetime that got you in jail.
So just because the guy's old and he's been in jail for a long time, they let him out,
Yep.
even though he had like consecutive life sentences.
I don't know if he had consecutive life sentences, but
I
he
think if it's
lured
what I'm
young
thinking of,
children. He lured young neighborhood children in Sacramento with candy, kidnapped, brutalized, and raped the children as young as 3, and then would toss them on the side of the road when he's done.
Rush
Thanks to
Limbaugh had,
Gavin Newsom, this guy's back on the street.
Rush Limbaugh would refer to somebody who wanted to change sex, and they'd have an operation. And I think this operation would be a mandatory operation for somebody who's a serial sex offender. The cutadectomy would be an appropriate punishment for that guy. And
Well, I think he should have gotten the death penalty. I mean, hang him high.
well, maybe both.
And the guy is only 64 years old.
Yeah, I think that's the guy I read about, and he had 3 consecutive life sentences. And these morons in Sacramento, who control 75% of our legislature, decided old people can't commit crimes anymore. We're going to let them out of jail so they can live the rest of their life in peace and hopefully not kill too many more young girls before they die.
So, in addition to being soft on crime, Scott, Newsom has poor judgment in other areas. He was in front of a mostly black audience, and he said, "I'm like you, quote unquote. I have a low SAT too." So he was stereotyping black people as people with low SATs.
Yeah, and in fairness, the audience wasn't all black, but he was on this tour with the mayor of Atlanta who was black, and it certainly came across that way. And many black people
We're in the audience.
Yeah, were in the audience and felt like it was being aimed at them. And he should resign over it. It's ridiculous. I'm just like you. I'm stupid like you. What is it that he's assuming that everybody?
Then he blamed it on. He says, "Well, I have dyslexia. That's why I didn't get a good SAT score." But then he was bragging on his podcast with some author saying, "Oh, I read your book in an hour and a half," which is a 260-page book. He just lies and lies and lies and lies to try to ingratiate himself to people because he's insecure, has no core beliefs, and is willing to say anything to anyone to get what he wants.
Oh, I love the debate that he had with DeSantis, Florida governor, because DeSantis would sit there and throw all these facts at him, and Newsom would just come back with his own set of facts.
He'd just laugh and say and try to deflect.
which were all lies, and DeSantis is kind of like, that's a lie, or he was more polite. That's not true, and he goes, "No, I don't know it's not true. That's true. You've got your facts wrong." And so it's kind of like, even though they would sit there and fact check DeSantis, the media, on the fly, they didn't once fact check Newsom, and he's a liar.
Well, Fox News and OAN and Newsmax did, and they trashed Newsom.
The old story of how can you tell he's lying? His mouth is moving.
Lips are moving.
I mean, yeah, Newsom's picture's in the definition by that.
All right, Scott. It's not just Newsom's corruption in California, but a DEI hire for Los Angeles Unified School District superintendent. That's my old district. I'm a Los Angeles City Schools grad and attended elementary school, as our audience knows, junior high and high school in Los Angeles City Schools.
Which, of course, we know is worthless, right?
Now it is. And then it was still good because they didn't have DEI.
Sure. Keep telling yourself that.
No, that's true. No, Scott. At my high school, Taft High School, there were dozens of AP classes. People went to every university in the country from that high school. There were professors' kids.
Obviously, Newsom didn't attend that school, or he'd have brought the average
Newsom
down.
did not. But they also had an ag area in those days, in a lot of schools in the San Fernando Valley. But the FBI raided the headquarters of the Los Angeles Unified School District and the superintendent's home. How about that, Scott?
Interesting. Did they find anything yet?
Oh, I'm sure they're taking a lot of stuff out, but this guy is this DEI Democrat is gonna be in hot water, I think, Scott. Another maybe Democrat.
Maybe, yeah, that's a redundancy as well. Maybe they should look for the high-speed rail. Newsom keeps saying that it's around here somewhere. Maybe that's where it went.
Well, the other ripoff in California is the utility bill ripoff. So California utility companies, Scott, after the utilities fee that they added before you use 1 watt of electricity, They can bill you incorrectly for years because of their incompetence, and then penalize you for their mistakes by hitting you with a massive surprise bill all at once, um, called back billing, and it's a scam. And so that needs to be fixed. But it's just another example of broken California.
So you mean besides the fact that we pay twice as much for our electricity as the rest of the country
Yes.
pays? So if they undercharge you and they undercharge you for 6 years, all of a sudden they can come back and say, "Oops, sorry," and they hit you
We
with a
want
bill.
thousands of dollars. We undercharged you. Sounds like the mob, right? Oh, we
It's
didn't
like
charge you enough. We need more.
it's like we had the right to charge you for all this extra stuff and we forgot. So surprise. So does it work the other way around? If they overcharge you for 10 years, will they give you a big, massive refund?
I'm sure they'll tell you, Scott, if they do that, and that check will be in the mail, right?
Yeah. I'll hold my breath.
So Mike talked about the racial discrimination that the legislature is trying to bring back into public education. But, the Los Angeles Unified School District's not having a good month. The Trump DOJ has moved to end LAUSD's race-based program. Race-based, Scott, obviously violating the racial discrimination federal laws, but DEI Democrats don't care about those. They want to
And
discriminate.
they also violate Prop 209, but they don't care.
So it's not just LA Unified School District that's being investigated for fraud, but the San Francisco homeless nonprofit CEO has been charged with 9 felonies for misappropriating over $1 million in public funds.
Only $1 million? Oh, he's a pauper.
Well, yeah, he could have
he's
stolen more
lightweight.
if he'd had more time, maybe, Scott.
He's a lightweight. Look at that. We're still looking for that $26 billion that Newsom spent on the homeless, unaccounted for, totally gone.
Well,
nothing to show for it.
It's an argument of whether it was really spent on homeless programs or whether it went into people's pockets, but that's a different day.
No, I don't think there's a lot of argument there. It went into people's pockets.
But the problem, Scott, is we again and again and again we see government money going to nonprofits that's stolen or laundered.
Well,
we got to stop funding these nonprofits with taxpayer money. If people want to make donations, donations to nonprofits, let people donate. If they steal,
and then they turn around and donate money to Newsom's campaign for governor or his campaign for president. So that's why they keep getting money. Okay.
But a broken clock is right at least twice a day, right, Scott? So as much as Gavin Newsom lies, he actually said something that made half sense the other day. He said Democrats.
Wait a minute. Let me write this down. Okay, go ahead.
He said Democrats must be more culturally normal to win elections because they're the weirdos, right? We saw the weirdos on display on the night of the State of the Union. Some of them had an animal party with a member of Congress who is a Democrat in Portland. Did you see that nonsense?
I think I'll pass on that one.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Did they have blue hair?
No, they dressed up like in animal costumes and were singing.
They were furries?
I don't even know what that is, and we're near the end of the show. We don't have time to explain that weirdness to our normal audience.
More than we already are.
Another problem that we have with Democrats stealing tax money is we have liberal Democrat teachers that are organizing walkouts of public school students during class time to protest ICE. I showed photos of that I took near Mission Viejo High School after school. That's fine if they do it after school, not during class time. But at Longfellow Elementary School in the San Diego Unified School District, they hosted anti-ICE student walkouts during school hours, Scott. And leftist parents showed up demanding that people not record their children while they were engaging in illegal activity on school time. So it sounds like the parents were in on the conspiracy to violate the law, doesn't it, Scott?
At least many of them were. They were protecting the teachers and protecting their kids while they were doing their illegal activities. I mean, okay, let's say that you make it a school project. We're going to do a civics lesson here on protesting and free speech. They go out there. We want you to take this side. I mean, it would be appropriate.
It's tax money. No can do.
So
Illegal. Can't do it.
So it would be appropriate if you would take the class and divide it in half and say half of them have to be on this side of the issue, half of them have to be on the other side of the issue.
No, then you're
And
making
teach.
people take political positions also illegal. None of that's
No,
acceptable.
no. This would just be for a civics practice class, but that's not
Oh,
what happened.
inside the classroom. Inside the classroom.
Yeah. But that's not what happened. They had actually had them come out and do public protests on their side of the issue. And they weren't. Wasn't that the one they were going around F Trump?
No, that
They
was
were
the one
cheering.
in Oceanside. The high school districts marched to the beach to chant that. And students at Apple Valley High School in California were out waving Mexican flags and protesting ICE. I got a message to everybody who waves foreign flags. Get out of our country. We don't want you. We don't want to be your countrymen. We don't want you in our country. Go away. Go away.
Now, we don't want to wait. Leave now. That's fine with us.
Yeah. So, Scott, we're getting toward closing here. A liberal judge in California ordered a California hospital to resume gender transition procedures for minors, meaning castration, in spite of the federal government order to the contrary. And the federal government, through the Interstate Commerce Clause and other federal statutes, has the authority to shut that down. And I've got a message for this judge. The federal government should prosecute you like a Nazi concentration camp doctor and give you
Yep.
the death penalty if you're castrating children.
So let's get this clear. So the feds, of course, issue a thing saying we're going to prosecute anybody that does sex change things to minors, right?
That castrates children. Let's call it what it is.
And or double mastectomies, whatever. And this hospital voluntarily decided to discontinue to do these kinds of operations to underage children. And this a-hole federal judge said to this private entity, you must continue to perform these operations whether you want to or not.
Now, what should happen is the DOJ should threaten to arrest the judge for violating federal law. And that's going to create a set of issues. But, as the corrupt Democrat Senator Harry Reid once said, the process is the punishment. Right, Scott?
Yeah.
So that judge can sit in federal prison and hire a lawyer and to defend that. And maybe they win and maybe they lose.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If there is a child that gets castrated against his will at that hospital after this judge is given this declaration, the judge should go to prison. He should have his
I
own
think
nuts
it'll
off.
be a lot worse for them. Remember, we covered a couple of weeks ago this civil case in New York State, liberal New York State, where a child who had been given these wrong hormone drugs
Right,
sued
and
everyone
and
involved
then
and got a $2 million judgment.
yeah, she transitioned back, detransitioned they call it, and she got a judgment. Well, I don't think a judgment's good enough against this judge. This judge ought to lose his own nuts and he ought to go to jail. I'm sorry. I don't care if you want to hide behind
Well,
those black
and
robes.
there's another problem,
Doesn't make it right.
Another problem. These people that get these cross hormones are, being very violent. If I'm that judge or those doctors, I think they should be a little concerned about what the monsters they're creating. But we'll save that for another time. So, Scott, did you hear about the former mayor? And this will be our last story. We're out of time. We're over time now. The California mayor's ex-fiancée was sentenced to 4 years in prison for spying on behalf of China. And we're not talking about Eric Swalwell here. We're not talking about.
We're not talking about Swalwell banging, fanging. This is somebody else.
Yes, and it's just. I was going to say just another Democrat, but
it's just another Democrat.
I don't remember. Scott, was there this much corruption when we were kids, or we just know more about it now?
No, do you remember Alger Hiss? You have these spies, and when they were finally uncovered, it was like the story of the year because
it was the female mayor, Eileen Wang, of Arcadia, her boyfriend, I guess, her husband,
Our
was the one
fiance.
convicted. Yeah, so into the slammer he went.
So
Well, look,
is
everybody, we
she still
appreciate
going to
you.
marry him?
I don't know. Maybe not now unless she moves to China. Thanks to everybody for visiting with us today. California Free Radio. We'll see you at 6:30 next Thursday. It'll be March already, and the campaign season is heating up. And whatever you do this year, vote. Register to vote. Vote. Get all your friends that think like you to vote. This midterm election is very important, and the
And that's
Democrats are trying to cheat.
the only way they're going to beat us is if we don't show up to vote, because we have the numbers and we have righteousness on our side.
And
We
look what
just-
happened in Texas. In a Republican district, the Republicans didn't show up in a special election, and they elected a radical Democrat. Stupid. Benjamin Franklin said in 1787, you'll get the kind of government you deserve. If you don't show up, there are kooks that will decide what your life should be like, and you won't like it.
No, I totally agree. Thank you from all of us behind the blue curtain. We're giving you hope as we bring out all of these, point out all of the atrocities of the liberal left. But then I repeat myself. So here we are from behind the blue curtain, trying to save California. Thank you for joining us tonight.